Welcome to the Modern Titus 2 Women Unplugged podcast, where we dive fearlessly into the untold stories and struggles of women's lives. This is a space of authenticity where no topic is off limits. Each episode is a journey of discovery and empowerment, confronting challenges with honesty and vulnerability. From maintaining a home to healing from abuse, balancing motherhood with personal passions, and navigating single parenting, widowhood, divorce, and post-abortion heartbreak, we explore it all. With special guests offering wisdom and perspective, we uncover forgiveness and reignite love in marriage. Join us for soul-stirring conversations. Tune in. Your story matters.
Okay. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, health, tax, professional advice. We are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from the use of this podcast. This podcast is not intended to replace professional medical advice. The views expressed in this podcast may not be those of the host or management. This podcast may contain adult themes, so parental discretion is advised. As part of our mentoring role, we seek resources and support that help women thrive. Today's guest is a powerhouse of purpose, empowerment, and self-discovery. She is a woman on a mission to help others break free from the constraints of social labels and truly embrace who they are. I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce Shelley McKean, an internationally recognized certified life purpose coach, self-awareness expert, author, and empowerment speaker. As a wife, a mother, and a dedicated leader, Shelley has a unique understanding of the delicate balance between motherhood and life passion. She speaks life into women, reminding them that they are more than their roles as mothers, wives, and professionals. Shelley is a fierce advocate for self-awareness and decluttering the mind, helping women bridge the gap between clarity and purpose so they can live confidently and empowered. So welcome, Shelley. Welcome, Shelley. I am so honored to have you in our presence.
Thank you. Thank you.
With the wealth of knowledge you have, I'm sure all the ladies are going to have a fantastic time listening to this podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. If you want to expound on your credentials and repeat your name.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. Again, my name is Shelley McKean. I am an empowerment speaker, a certified life purpose and confidence coach. I am also a best-selling author and a mom life strategist. So I show ambitious and highly driven moms and mompreneurs how to successfully balance motherhood with their business, their passion, with their career goals through self-care, empowerment, and confidence building. And we're going to do this without guilt, because that is one of the things that we often so many times struggle with when trying to build a business or just trying to take a little time for ourselves to pour back into us. It's that mom guilt that we feel so much. So we're going to do these things, and we're going to also learn how to knock out that guilt.
Awesome. Powerful stuff today. So how did your journey lead you to become a certified life purpose coach and self-awareness expert, focusing on empowering women? What happened? Why you chose field?
Well, when my kids were about maybe 5 and 12, somewhere around there, I had a complete emotional breakdown in my bathroom mirror because I had chosen to leave my job in corporate America and to become a stay-at-home mom, which was a choice that, that I wanted. I wanted to have more time being more present with my kids. But what I didn't understand is I didn't understand my own self-identity. I didn't understand, how to balance that life with who I am and how to still empower myself, encourage myself. So I had this completely full breakdown, and what ended up happening is through that breakdown, I learned that I needed to find me again. I needed to take myself on a journey, which is what I did. I took myself on a self-awareness journey. I began to find out who I was again, what I enjoyed, who I was outside of titles, because I had felt that I was just a mom at that point, and I really didn't have any value. I didn't have a voice. And so as I went on this journey, I began to rediscover those things. I began to rediscover self-care, how to balance, how to incorporate, and what made me, Shelley, happy outside of the titles. And when I did that, that's exactly what happened. I began to rediscover my confidence. I began to rediscover my voice. I began to feel more empowered. And I knew that there had to be other women out there who had gone through this same thing. And so I wanted to be able to share my journey with them and share the things that I did so that I could get over that hump. And that's what I've been doing ever since then, motivating moms and mompreneurs so that they can live and what I like to call an and life, and not an either or life, living a life where we have to choose between being mothers and fulfillment. We don't have to. We can do both.
Right. Well, you know what's interesting? My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and people think it's easy to stay at home and look after children. Trust me, it's a lot of work, because when I started having my children, and I said, I had C-section, so I was at home at least 3 to 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I tell the truth, I wanted to go back to work by the 6th.
It's a job. It's a job, right? And it's a 24-hour job.
Yes, it is. It is a job. And I always, from that, I always appreciate my mom. I'm saying, Mom, I mean, you are one of the most wonderful persons. You know, she's just a silent giver, because,
Mm-hmm.
she's at home when you come to hear the
Yeah.
stories, what happened at school,
Right.
and to kiss you on the whatever hurts you, she kiss you on the
Yes.
feet. You
Yes.
feel better. You come up the road, the food is
Yep.
smelling, dinner's ready, everything is ready, and your clothes is ready. And you
Yeah.
take it for granted, but it is a lot of work.
It is. It's a lot of work. And, I've been in both positions. I've been the working mom, and that's a lot of work. You're up at 5 in the
Mm-hmm.
morning, getting kids together, getting them off to where they need to be, fighting traffic, dealing with bosses, situations, to fight traffic again, get back to kids that you haven't seen for 12 hours. I would drop my
Right.
daughter off at I had to be at work at 7:30, and I would drop my daughter off at about 6:45 in the morning, and I didn't see her again until 6 in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And when we would get home, there's a full schedule at home, because now we have to get you prepped and ready. I have to cook dinner. We have to do any type of homework, spend time with you, get you ready for the next day. It's a routine either way. So there's guilt on that side that I don't get to see you as much as I would like to see you because I have to work. There's guilt on the other side, that I'm not bringing in a financial part to this relationship. Or, I want time to myself, but now I feel guilty for wanting time to myself. I have been told several times, you should be happy that you get to stay home with your kids. So it made me feel like I can never feel like I'm tired, or I want to get away from them rascals, for a little while. It's like, go away. So there was always this mixed feeling. I love being able to stay at home, yet there was another side to, like, I want to run away from all you.
Yeah. And another thing is that in the profession, when you're out on maternity leave and you come back, or you stay at home, and then you decide the children are old enough and you can go back out to work, it's like you have to be relearning everything. Technology is changing so fast.
Yes. It's a whole new world. It's foreign. And so one of my reasons, I've never really been a person who's wanted to clock in. And that was one of the reasons why, after going through that metamorphosis and going through finding out who I am, understanding who I wanted to work with and who I wanted to encourage and empower, that was one of the best decisions to start a business, to do this for myself, because the workforce changes so much after you've been home, you know, and being able to stay at home plus build a business, that's still a whole big thing, all in itself
Yes.
too. So each side, each side has its pros and its cons, but building a business was something that I wanted to do, and I wanted to show my children, hey, even in the midst of all of this, you can still decide that you want to build a business for yourself, be an entrepreneur, whatever it is that you desire to do. I want you to feel, because I have daughters, and I wanted them to feel that they didn't have to choose, being as women, you didn't have to choose one side or the other.
Yes, that is so true. Can you share a pivotal moment in your life that made you realize the importance of balancing motherhood with your personal passion?
Oh my goodness. How about just all the tears that you shed trying to balance motherhood with your passion? But you know what I really learned?
Yes.
But what I really learned is we have life seasons. And so that was very pivotal for me to learn that. There's a quote by Katharine Hepburn that I really love, and it says that women can have it all. They just can't have it all at the same time. And that like changed my mental really, because I think that what many of us try to do is we try to take all of our tasks and everything, and we try to put them into the life season that we're in, instead of respecting our current life season and taking our tasks and responsibilities and putting it around that. And so what I mean is, when you're the mom of one and you work in corporate, your time is different if you're the mom of just one child versus if you're working in corporate and you're the mom of three children, two teenagers and a toddler. Your world looks totally different. So what you were doing when you were just a mom of one and working in corporate, you can't take those same principles and those same things that you were doing. You can't, your time is different. So you can't take everything you were doing in that particular life season and bring it to this one. And I think that's what many of us do. And I believe that that's what I was doing too. I'm going to do everything. I still want to do this. I still want to do that. And it's not that we can't, but we have to realize that when your life changes, when your life season changes, you need to change with it, and you need to adapt with it. And you need to be able to harmonize your new life season with the things that you would like to do. You can't run it the same way. But we become frustrated because we try to. So when I learned to flow with my life season, to become flexible with my life season, and to change with my life seasons, then I realized my overwhelmed frustration, bitterness, anger, I had an opportunity to release those things.
Yeah, yeah. That's so interesting. What does self-awareness mean to you, and how can it transform the lives of mothers who feel lost in their role?
Yeah, self-awareness really is just that, understanding you, understanding your triggers, understanding what makes you happy, understanding your likes, your dislikes. I laugh because I tell people, when I was going through this journey, this self-awareness journey, I had to ask myself, do you really like Cheerios, or do you just eat them because the kids leave them? That was
That's true.
self-awareness.
Sometimes we don't want to see the food waste.
You don't want to see the food wasted. So instead of you going and making yourself, a little cheese toast or something that you like, you go, well, I'll just go on and eat these Cheerios. But self-awareness, that was a part of it. And a part of self-awareness is being able to change those things that don't necessarily work with you now that you know it, into things that harmonize more with you. And so I had to get into the fact of saying, hey, you know what? Do you really like Cheerios? And if you don't like Cheerios, if the whole point is you don't like to see the food wasted, then how can we redo this? Maybe the kids don't like them either. Have you ever thought about that? Or maybe you should give them right. Or maybe you should give them less Cheerios. How about that? Or maybe we can switch up the breakfasts a little bit and give them something. So self-awareness is being able to look at what it is and then change the dynamic if need be. So that things are able to flow. And so that's one of the things that I was able to do, to look at myself and say, how can I better make things flow? How can things flow better with the new understanding that I have? And it's okay. It's okay to look and say, this is who I am today. And now 3 months later, I think differently. I still like this, or I don't like this, or I've tried something new. I think we get stuck in the idea that if we find out something about ourselves, okay, it's golden and it has to be that way, for the next 10 years, 15 years. No, I can enjoy something today and then in 6 months decide, I'm reevaluating who I am, where I want to be, what I like, what I don't like, and I don't really care for this anymore. And that's okay.
Right. But even when you look around us with nature, as you say, the season, you can't wear a summer top in winter.
You're gonna be real cold. You're gonna be real cold.
You have to adjust to the different
You have to
seasons. So
adjust.
nature's showing us that we have to do that.
There's an adjustment that we make. And
Mhm.
if you choose not to make that adjustment, then you put yourself in a position of uncomfortability. You put yourself in the position, maybe you'll end up sick. You're wearing a tank top, in 20-degree weather. There are other things that will happen if you choose not to adjust.
And then again, normally when you get information and you think about it and it becomes knowledge, you change because you're now
Yes.
better informed, so you can make an informed decision. So that's part of
Yes.
it also. Yeah.
Yes, that's part of your growth. That's part of you being able to have that self-awareness, to be able to reflect all of these things that you're saying. Absolutely.
So what are some signs that a mother may be losing herself in her children, and what can she do to regain her sense of self?
Oh, that is such a good question. One of the signs that you're losing yourself is that nothing else happens in your life that doesn't involve your children. Nothing. If you go out with a friend, you bring the kids along, everything in your life revolves around your children. You don't have anything outside of that. That is a clue that you are beginning to lose yourself in your children. If you find yourself unhappy a lot, or when you're away from your children, you absolutely don't know what to do at all, then these may be signs that you could possibly be losing you. And if that's the case, being able to sit back and just do a quick self-awareness check of what is it that you desire. What do you desire? Not even 10 years from now, not even 5 years from now. What would make this week better for you? If your children weren't involved in any aspect of your life, what would make this week really good for you? Would it be to go out and have an ice cream cone by yourself? Would it be to call up your sister and say, hey, do you have some free time this week? I'd love to see you. What would make that week special for you? Take a little time for self-awareness and then look at 2 to 3 things that would make that week special and start incorporating that. Even if you can't incorporate it that week, see, can you incorporate it the next week? Because that's going to give you something to look forward to, where you'll be able to begin including pieces of you inside of your life again. You don't want to completely lose who you are. And you can also start again with little things, self-care. That helps us not lose ourselves and our children too. Daily self-care. And it doesn't have to be anything outlandish. I love to watch sitcoms at night before I go to bed. That is a self-care for me because the day can be overwhelming. It can be stressful. So I like to watch something fun before I go to bed. And so I watch 30 minutes to an hour of sitcoms every single night before I go to bed, just so that I can sleep, happy. So what are some things? How can you incorporate a little self-care, which is another way of you not completely losing yourself in your title of motherhood?
And then what I noticed is that you have some mothers that whatever they wanted, whatever their aspiration was in life, and they've given up on it, they project it on the child. And they now want the child to be the ballerina that they weren't.
Yeah, yeah.
The doctor that they were.
Right,
The
right.
poor child is like, I don't
Yes.
want to do.
Yeah, we try to live sometimes vicariously through our children. And what we have to realize is at the end of the day, you made a decision. And with every decision, there are consequences. And consequences don't have to necessarily be a bad thing. But
Right.
what is it? To every action is a reaction. I think that's
Reaction. Yeah.
so for every choice that we make, there's something connected to it. So my choice was to stay home with my children. And so, because of that choice, there were some things that I just was not able to do at that time. I didn't advance in my career the way I would have wanted to advance in my career had I not made the choice to stay at home. We have to take ownership of the choices that we make. They were our choices, and they were the choices that were made at that time that we thought would be best for ourselves, best for our family, best for our future. And now, what do we have to do? We have to work with that choice within that new life season. And that does not include forcing our children to be what we decided that we would forfeit for a
Yes.
moment. You don't have to end it. I've always wanted to act. I always thought I was going to be an A-list actor, y'all. I've been wanting to be an actor ever since I was in the womb doing monologues for myself. Okay. I used to, when I left my career, I left a career in entertainment. So that's the career that I left. I was working for an entertainment company. And so that was one of the other reasons that I think I really fell into this depression and emotional breakdown, because I felt like I have nothing. I was going to go, I was going to be in entertainment, I was going to do all of these things. What I noticed is that that particular way that the dream was going to unfold probably wouldn't unfold that way anymore. So I had to ask myself the question, was being an actress the goal, or was being famous the goal? Because those are two totally
Two
different
different.
things.
Yeah.
And if being an actress was the goal, I didn't get a chance to necessarily act in that way, but I did get a chance to act. I became a stage actress where I was able to take my children with me to rehearsals. I was able to have them be involved. They enjoyed being engaged in that part of my life. And 2 years ago, this is 2024. So 2 years ago in 2022, I was a part of a Disney short film. So am I walking around being an A-list actor? No, but I had an opportunity to be a part of a predominant,
There you go.
company, which was Walt Disney, and I had a chance to get on set and just live the life. I've been on set plenty of times, but I had a chance to get on there and do something for Walt Disney, y'all. Okay,
Yeah. Who
so
can
we
say
have to.
that? How many people can say
Right.
that?
So we have to understand that sometimes the dream gets altered, but that doesn't mean that the dream never happens.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have learned in my life on earth here that you have to make yourself flexible.
Mhm.
Everything is not black and white. Sometimes it's not a
Exactly.
straight line to get the shortest distance is a straight line, but probably how you are supposed to get to it is not a straight line.
Yes.
So we need to make ourselves flexible and pliable. And people of faith, we pray for things. We leave it in God's hands, and he's ultimately in control, because sometimes when we want to take over take over what he has for us, sometimes the time is not right. That's not the time
Right.
for it. So we have to, be prayerful and deliberate in trust, in the trust that we
Yeah.
have.
And
Mm-hmm.
then also I had to realize that if the dream changed, that's okay too. It
Yeah.
doesn't it doesn't make you a failure because you didn't follow one dream and then you developed a new dream. It's okay. You get to evolve, you get to change, you get to be flexible. We get stuck sometimes in the mind that I was going to do this, I was always going to do this, I was going to be this A-list actor, and now because I didn't get to be this A-list I am a failure. No, I'm not. I've had a chance to act. I've had a chance to raise my children. We have to begin determining what success looks like for us and not taking success from others to try to make it us. What does your success look like? And as long as you're following that And again, you can alter, you can be flexible, that's where self-awareness comes in. I can look back and say, this is what I wanted, 10 years ago. This is what I thought I was going to be. But now that I've grown a little bit, now that I have more experiences in life, now that I've done more things in life, I'm actually okay with that change, because I found that I love this even more, and I'd love to pursue this, and I'd love to do this. We just need to be able to always give ourselves that flexibility to allow, I should say, ourselves to evolve in different ways, even if it wasn't exactly the way that we thought it would be.
That's interesting, because even in relationships, sometimes the person that we're madly in love with, and we say we can't, we can't live without the person, and stuff happens, and then you meet somebody else, and you're like, what on earth was I thinking?
Funny.
So sometimes, as I said before, there are different opportunities that present yourself. As I said, we need to be aware of these opportunities and embrace them when they come. Embrace them and give them your best, because that's all we can do. Whatever
that's it.
Give the best,
You can only work with what you can work with, and your experiences and how you do it.
Yeah. And I always tell my children, everything in life, don't care how simple it is that you learn, it's always transferable. They're always transferable skills. There's nothing you do in life that you can't use,
You can use it all.
Thing.
You can use it all. Maybe you're not using it right now. Maybe you won't use it for another 5 years, but everything that's in you, you can use. Everything.
Everything, yes. So what are some common misconceptions about motherhood that you work to dispel through your coaching and writing? What are the common misconceptions?
Yeah. One of the main things is that we have to choose. That's one of the biggest misconceptions in motherhood, that you can either be a good mom, a present mom, and be there for your kids, or you can be fulfilled in other ways, but that those two things do not coexist. And that just isn't true. When we learn how to balance our lives, when we learn how to open ourselves up to flexibility, even when we learn how to prioritize our self-care, at times, when we learn how to do those things, we realize that we don't have to live an either or life. And then we teach our children that too. We teach our children to love themselves, to honor themselves, to take time for themselves when they see us do the same thing. And so that's one of the biggest things that we have to choose, that we're not a good mom if we want to take time for ourselves, that we're not a good mom if we want to see beyond that title. And it's just simply false.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yes, it's true. We always feel guilty, because I can remember with my first child, the first one, you always go through the learning process.
Right.
The third, just drag them and take them. But, I didn't want to stop breastfeeding her, so I used to, have the task of, getting that stuff together and taking it with her. Sometimes she at the nursery, they call and say that she doesn't want it. She wants her mommy. And I have to go over there, and I'm like, I used to cry, because I'm saying, oh, I don't like how I feel, that I'm not being a good mother, in some of these things. So as you correctly say, the misconception that we have to choose.
Yeah.
We have to choose. That isn't necessarily true.
Right.
So what has been your most rewarding aspect of your work in empowering women to balance their lives and passion? What has been the most rewarding aspect?
To see the spark in their eyes. It will always be the most rewarding to see them go, oh, wow, to encourage them, because a lot of moms come, they come in, and the first question that I ask them is to tell me about themselves. And the first thing they do, which a lot of us do, is they give me their titles. Oh, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm this, I'm that. And I say, those are all beautiful things. Now tell me about you. And to see the shift in their eyes, like, what do you mean? What do you enjoy? What do you love? Tell me something about you that has nothing to do with anybody else. I've seen women's eyes well up because they're like, I've never thought about it, or I asked, what did you enjoy before all of the titles? Take me back to childhood. Where did you feel most comfortable? Where did you feel most free? And I remember, one mom was like, just being outside in the rain. They just
Oh,
loved it.
wow.
They love being outside, and playing in the rain. Okay, well, maybe at 40, you don't want to play in the rain, but maybe you do. Go outside one day in the rain and just do a twirl, you know, do a twirl and come back in. Or maybe if you don't want to go outside, open up the door one day when it's raining and just sit right next to that door and just listen to that rain. And so
Beautiful sound.
a little while later, she had an opportunity to just go and splash in the rain, and it was the most freeing thing for her. It made her feel so free, so open, and she just never thought that at 35, 40 that she could go outside and just sit in the rain. And I said,
Wow.
why not? Why
Why
not? Why
not?
can't you?
Why
Why
not?
can't you just go outside? Because we've been conditioned to think we have to let everything go. But even if
Yes.
you didn't sit outside in the rain, you could sit on your porch and watch the rain fall. Like I said, you could sit by the window and listen to it. You can open up your door, turn all the lights off, and have a cup of coffee. There's so many ways that we can be flexible with that. We don't have to leave those things that brought us
Yes.
so much peace.
Yes. Yes. We could go on forever. This is such an interesting topic. But I'm going to have one last question for you. What
Yes.
legacy do you hope to leave through your work as a life coach and as a mother? What is your legacy? What do you want to leave? What do you want people to remember you?
Yeah. For my children, I want them to remember the Christ in me. Um, I love God. And for me, there's nothing that I can do outside of him. And so for my children, I will not always be here. And so I want you to know who will always be here, and that's Christ. That is your foundation. I want them to know that they were loved, but even when they feel distant from me, if ever, you feel distant from me, I want you to always gravitate to God. And so that would be the legacy that I want to leave my children, that your pure love, the answer, who you need, all of that is found in Christ. And I want you to remember that, that, hey, my mother loved God. And when things weren't right, when things didn't go right, she took it to God. And the life didn't have to not be right. She just loved God. She loved praising the Lord. And so yeah, that would be my legacy for my children. My legacy for my work would be, I want women to remember who they are, to remember that everything that they ever need, God already provided.
Mm.
And we just need to walk that journey out. So everything you need is in there. And I want them to always remember that Katharine Hepburn quote: you can have it all. You absolutely can. You just probably can't do it all at the same time. So let that be your guide, and never tell yourself you can't have it. Look at your life season and just say, maybe it needs to be altered for a moment.
That's so powerful. What an incredibly enriching and soul-stirring conversation that this has been. Shelley, your work of wisdom today, your words of wisdom today has been a reminder that balance is possible when we make space for both our children and our dreams. To everyone listening, you take these messages to heart, apply them to your life, and remember, there's nothing more powerful than a woman who knows who she is and refuses to settle for less. Shelley, thank you for inspiring
Thank
us
you.
to be that woman.
Thank you. This has been amazing. Thank you so much.
All right. So I'm going to put in the notes the information, how to contact, and you have some freebies for the listeners, and I'll put that in the notes. So thank you again, Shelley, for being such a gracious and wise guest.
Thank you so much. You have an amazing day.
All right, Shelley.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.